Hello guys, how you going? Screenzilla here, I hope you are all well. Well, welcome to the new British bomber, the Handley Page Hampton. Now, you might look at this and think it looks a bit like a Dornier. Well, it's because it does. This plane was developed around about the same time as the Dornier planes were developed, and being such, it shared some of its looks. It also actually shared some of its armaments as well. The first variants had a more all-out frontal attack design, which proved to be absolutely terrible. So they later changed it to a more a slightly better design. Originally it had a fixed 303 Browning in the fuselage to avoid the weight penalties of having turrets, things like that. Had the Perspex nose. It's sort of similar to the. It's almost like a baby Halifax, if you like. It's also a very narrow plane. The pilot said about this plane, it was a magnificent plane until you started to fly it, because it was very cramped, very uncomfortable, and very, well, you couldn't go to the bathroom in it, basically. Once you got in, you were stuck. So initially it had single Brownings on it. As you can see at the front, this was the primary armament. It also has a secondary Browning up in the nose here, operated by the pilot. Now the pilot of this plane had a lot to do. Around about 101 different things to do on the plane, from engine control, gunning. The pilot was also the bomber of the plane. So as you can imagine, he was a very busy chap. Now, when it was realised that this plane was kind of hopeless with its Dornier design of having weapons at the front, with the single Vickers K installation, in the rear and lower position as well, they changed it slightly. And what they did is they replaced it with dual Vickers machine guns in the rear turrets, well, in the rear fixed positions, not really turrets. And this made a huge difference to the defence of the airplane. Now, this was one of the sort of first medium bombers, along with the Wellington and the Whitworth-Whitley, the Armstrong. So these were the main three bombers at the start of World War II. So let's switch to player view here. So it was a pretty historic plane, all in all. It retired in about 1942 because it was unsuitable for the missions it was carrying out. It was starting to take heavy losses. Around about over 1,400 of these were produced by the end of the war, and they were still in service with, I believe, the Swedish Air Force and a few other nations until 1945. They were also used as, recon airplanes, training aircraft, things like that. So the big thing on this plane is its bomb load at low tier. So this is I think it's 1.7, and it carries 4,000 pounds of bombs. Now, unfortunately, the bombs are not your general British 1,000-pound bombs. They're actually a lower TNT variant. They've only got 174 kilograms worth of TNT equivalent to them. So you need to use 4 bombs to destroy a base. Now, as you'll see, just down there, Lelou's de la Salle, we were chatting on the way over, and he had an issue. He dropped his bombs. He said, "Oh no, 3 will do," and then had to turn back. So you do need to drop all your payload at once. Now, also in this patch, we've got the new feature of your bomb load. Your bomb bays are opening. You have a lot more to do as a bomber. Also, I just wish to let you know, down there, Lelou's had a fantastic game. I'm just going to switch back on how He had an amazing game. He actually killed 2 planes down there, the Yak-1 and the I-16. They sat on his 6. So there we go, bombs away. So the different feature in the new mode is you have the option to actually manually operate your bomb bays, which means you can open them before a bomb run, so you get a little bit better timing. They've also removed the arcade mode bomber rabbit radio on the ground, so you have to actually use your bomb view. Sorry, I was not in my mode to show you that, but with that it means you have to switch to bomb view mode, which I think is a good thing, because it means players will actually use the bombs properly and you're going to get more hits, things like that. Using the arcade sort of style one, you tend to be a little bit less accurate, whereas if you use the proper bomb sight, you have a much better accuracy, which is really, really good. Now, I'm just going to fly home here, so we're just going to fast forward a little bit, because not much happens. The Yak-1 flying around, and I'm going to rearm the plane, basically. Now, I've noticed one bug already. My bomb bay was closed at this point, but obviously it's still open. So, one thing to mention about this plane, it's gorgeous. It's a really cool looking plane. It's very different. It looks very much like a Dornier. It does have that real big look of the DO-17 to it, which is really quite different for the British planes. But it's a fantastic plane. This is the torpedo variant. So there's 2 variants of this plane. There's your standard and your torpedo. So the torpedo variant is the Navy, of course, and this is it. It's the second plane in the tiers that you can get. So it carries a single torpedo, and it's not a bad torpedo actually. It's got a drop speed of around about 170 miles per hour, so you can actually do some speed with it, which is nice. But you also get 2, I think they're 500-pound bombs on board, as well as your torpedoes. Brilliant news. It's also a pretty durable plane as well, which is a huge bonus. As we know with British planes, sometimes they tend to be a bit iffy with their durability. The Russians also have this plane, a torpedo variant too. The Soviet Navy used it, and it's a premium plane. So I've not yet flown that one. Obviously I don't own it, but if it's anything like this, it will be pretty damn good. Unfortunately, there are no Hamptons alive anymore in flying condition. There are still a couple in museums and such that were crashed. So here we come in for our landing, but there are no flying ones left, unfortunately, which is a real shame, because it's a pretty important plane in the war. It was one of the it was the first plane basically to go and bomb Germany. Where am I? Let's look over my notes. So on the 19th of March 1940, the Hamptons took part in the first deliberate bombing of German soil in a nighttime raid. This plane was primarily used for nighttime bombing, of course, like all British planes were generally. So another cool feature as well is it does have an open cockpit as well, which you can use. The cockpit view is really good on this plane too. I don't think I have any visual representation in this video, but bomber cockpits are now a thing, and the cockpit on this plane is beautiful. It's actually really useful to use. You've got a really good gun sight on it. The good thing about this plane, unlike most British bombers, is you do have an offensive gun. It is a single 7.7 Browning, but it's enough to do something with. You can actually, do things with it, which makes a huge difference. So, as I say, this was one of the first planes to go on. This was the first plane to basically attack German soil. It was also the smallest of the medium bombers in the 3 medium bomber ranges, with your Whitley, your Wellington, and your Hampton. So the Hampton was the slightly smallest one. Now in this game we're having a bad time. We've got 1 Spitfire left, the rest of us are bombers. We've got a B-18, we've got another Hampton, which is the Royal Air Force variant. Really no difference between the planes other than the fact that, actually he might be the same as me, I think. I thought he was, no, he's a TB, so yeah. So we've got two TB Mark 1s, so there's no real difference between the military and the Navy variants, other than the fact you can carry torpedoes. So this plane was the first one to go on such a raid, and Flight Lieutenant Rod Leroy of the 49th Squadron was also awarded the Victoria Cross for the attack. He led on the Donald Ems Canal on the 12th of August, so it's a Victoria Cross winning aeroplane, which there's not many of, especially in bombers. A second Victoria Cross was awarded to John Harner, the one of wireless operators and gunners of the 83rd Squadron. His Hampton was awarded when he fought the flames of burning aircraft, allowing the pilot to return to base. So he basically put out all the flames on the airplane, which is pretty impressive considering the narrowness of this plane. So almost half of the Hamptons built were lost on operations. Around about 1,077 crew were killed, and another 739 are missing. German flak accounted for around about 108. 206 Hamptons crashed because of a variety of causes. A lot of them were from barrage balloons, things like that. A really interesting fact actually is Guy Gibson, who you'll know from 617 Squadron. Oh my word, I said that wrong. Sorry, I'm a little bit unwell today. I'm on a lot of painkillers. Yeah, 617. Wow, that's a really brain dead moment. His first 2 years of aviation was spent in Hamptons. So yeah, so this plane had a lot of service and a lot of history to it. So I'm just trying to find a quote here, which I found quite funny. So Wilfred John Lewis. I did my first flight and first tour on a Hampton. A beautiful aeroplane to fly. Terrible to fly in. So the main thing with this plane, it's a really nice little plane to fly, but it's horrible to fly in because it's so cramped. It had no heating, no facilities where you could relieve yourself. You got in there and you were stuck there. The aeroplane was like a fighter. It was only 3 feet wide on the outside of the fuselage, and the pilot was a very busy person. There were 111 items for the pilot to take care of because the original aircraft, he had not only to find the instruments, the engine, and all of that, but he also had bomb switches and to hold the bombs. So he had to do everything. There was no bomber on board, there was no navigator in that position. The gunners did take up some navigating duties, but basically the pilot did it all. Yeah, they were a tricky plane to fly. One of the nicknames of it was the Flying Tadpole, because it kind of looks like a tadpole. When you look at it, you can sort of see why. So back to some of the changes in game. With bombers, it's much more important to use your bomber sights in this update. Let's just zoom forward a little bit here, just so we're not just flying aimlessly for a while. So, unfortunately, our friend over there, Lelouch, has got an I-301 on him, and he's not going to make it, unfortunately. He's gone down. So although this plane is pretty sturdy, it does take, it's still, it's still a British bomber, it's still not the most sturdy of things. Lelouch had an amazing game. Let's just show you here. Up until this point, he'd had 2 kills, 1.5 tons of bombs dropped, and top of the leaderboard. He had most kills of anyone in our team. So you can see our fighters didn't do a very good job in this match. No nothing bad against fighters. So it's just me and Jerry X left. Jerry's just taken out the bridge. I said I'll take out the base for him. I'm hoping I can do it with one bomb, because it's kind of at that point where it should be able to be done. I asked him to hit some tanks and things like this. So a really important thing here for bomber pilots is not to give up in a game. Right now we have 2 fighters and an attacker against us. We had 3, but thankfully the 301 went down because his engine was screwed. Brilliant work, as I said, from Lulus. Thanks to him, we basically had a bit more chance. So at this point, we can still win, but it's very, very tricky. So here we go into bomb view. So flying in bomb view, you have to be a bit careful because the controls are a little bit iffy. But get your aiming just right before you drop a bomb. You want to drop it around about the middle of the base, just to get the best possible damage. So away the bomb goes. I'm going to turn out here, because the vehicles have just arrived. So the end of game vehicles. So I dropped a bomb without any sight there, knowing that it would hit. So I got 2 vehicles killed, and the base is not destroyed, unfortunately. So let's spin around again. I've left my bombay open. Gives me a little bit more drag, yes, but not really worrying at this stage. Drop the bomb off just here, turn around so I don't get hit by any shrapnel. Now, Jerry X is going after vehicles as well, so we're trying our best to win this match. It's going to be a rough one, because we're in a sticky situation. They've got more planes than us, and they've got fighters, whereas we've just got a B-18, which, in all fairness, is not going to do well against a fighter. So right here, if you watch, I take my aim between these 2 vehicles. Now this is important because with the bomb you're going to get a radius blast. Drop it just there, it means that you can actually hit 2 vehicles. As you can see, both those vehicles go up in flames. If I'd aimed for just one, then obviously it wouldn't have worked. Now bomb door is closed again. I'm keeping an eye around me. Now, where the Hampton comes into its own is, as I said, it has a gun on it. So you've got an offensive weapon, which makes a huge difference. So we're trying to destroy vehicles as quick as we can so we can actually win this game. Now, your gun is not the best, but it's better than nothing. Switch here to my gunner. As you can see, the twin Vickers do a shitload more damage than your single Browning. The Vickers 7.7 is actually a really good gun, much more effective than the Browning 7.7s. You have 2 Brownings at the front of the plane, but you have 4 Vickers at the back of your plane, and those Vickers, although the ammunition goes a lot quicker, it means that you can do a lot more damage. Now I have a Yak 1 coming in on me, and I have an SB2. Crap. So these are the last remaining planes. So the SB2 comes in, switch to my gun view, get ready. Now my gun pointing is very low on this plane, you have a very small arc of fire. I'm aiming for his pilot though. Get the pilot. Awesome. Phew, that was close. He could have done a lot of damage to me. Oh, I got really lucky. So, switch to gunners again. We're trying to take out as many vehicles. As you can see here, the tickets are coming down. We are so close to a victory. I-16 now coming in. Crap. So we've got an I-16 and a Yak 1 up. I think the Yak 1 is still up. The Yak 1... Is that the Yak 1 go? The Yak 1 crashed. Okay, there we go. Alright, so that Yak has crashed. So, we are so close to victory, taking out these vehicles is really important. So, flying in, doing a little bit of damage, but not doing much with my front guns. Vickers light them up really quickly. As you can see, those Vickers just rip apart anything. They're really good little guns. Unfortunately, they're at the back of the plane. What I'd suggest is get your ammunition loading up pretty fast. So now we're coming in for a front run in the I-16. Luckily, I managed to dodge his rockets, and he's on fire. The good thing about this plane is with tracers, you want to use tracers instead of universal on your offensive guns, because they're all basically incendiary rounds. And we have now just won the game. 2 bombers have won the game. Jerry and myself survive. Victory goes to us. What a fantastic finish. So, that's the Hampton. Absolutely magnificent plane, as I said. I would really recommend it. Very good plane to learn bombing in. So let's just show you quickly the modifications. So I've already aced it. That was in about 2 missions I managed to ace it. So as I said, with the front offensive weapons, you've got your universal, which have tracer, armor piercing incendiary, and incendiary. The tracers, however, have incendiary tracers and armor piercing incendiary, so they all cause fire. Stealth, again, armor piercing incendiary. However, the tracers, you've got constant incendiary, and that's what makes the difference when you're shooting head on at a plane, because you've got a really strong chance of setting them alight. With the turrets, you've got armored targets and universal. Armored targets, incendiary tracer, and armor piercing. Obviously pretty useful for people. However, I stick to the universal, again, incendiary. And again, it's an armor piercing. And really, other than having a few less armor piercing, your penetration's around about the same. It makes no difference. Payload, you've got 6 250s, 2 500s, 4 500s, 4 1000s. Now, as I said, with these 4000s, you've only got 171.4 kilograms of explosive mass, and that means they're less damaging. Just to show you what that means, after I show you the torpedo stuff, I'll switch to my Lancaster and just show you the difference on the bombs, or even the Wellington. Torpedoes are actually really good. Drop range 105 meters with a speed of 174 miles per hour, which makes a huge difference. It means you don't have to go too slow. This plane is not going to be going that fast anyway. It's also got a shit ton of explosives in it as well. A Mark 18 is a fantastic torpedo. The good thing is, though, is you have a torpedo and 2 bombs, and I think that's going to be a big benefit when naval combat comes into the game. From my experience, torpedoes are very hard to hit onto a target on the small boats, but the bombs are really handy because you can hit those boats with bombs and it causes a lot of damage. What this means is you could go for, say, one of the capital ships they're thinking of adding, torpedo one of those, get some good points, and then drop 2 bombs on some of the smaller vessels. Modifications, obviously go weaponry, go for your bullets first of all, and bombs. You want to get the bombs pretty quickly. The £1,000 luckily are the second modification, so if you get your turrets set up, your bombs, and get the bombs done, then you're going to be pretty easy to actually progress in this. The plane itself, pretty fast, 266 miles per hour, really good turning moves on it. It's, you know, the turn time's 26 seconds, but in a bomber that's really impressive. So let's just show you, we'll just use the Brigand here. So the Brigand's £1,000 bombs are the same bombs. Whoops. Let's go to the Canberra. Okay, so the Canberra's £1,000 bombs. Saying they're the same. What's going on here? Have they changed bombs again? Maybe they've changed something else. Lancaster, there we go. So the explosive mass is your 226 kilograms. So that means you only need 3 of these bombs to destroy a base. Although the Canberra, you can destroy a base with 3 bombs sometimes, but it's very rare. So usually you need to drop 4. So yeah, the big heavy bombs are your big ones. They're a bit like the American bombs, apart from they don't have ANTHO, they have TNT in them. So they do have a bit more of a faster explosion, which causes a bit more damage. So they're very good for vehicles. Um, they're not hugely penetrative, but they do a good lot of damage. So when you look at the American bombs, for instance, so they've got the Antol in them. So the 1,000-pounders, although they have quite a lot of explosive mass, 240 kilograms, the Antol is a slower explosive, which means you need basically 3 of these to destroy a base. And 4 of these, sorry, to destroy a base. And it makes a huge difference, because obviously you can only destroy 1.5 bases pretty much. That's where the British bombers come into their own. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you do enjoy the Hampton. I'll just quickly show you the Mark 1 as well. So the Mark 1 Hampton, switch that over. Should have all this stuff ready for you, but you know me, I'm never ready. So as you see, it's in the military colours, same layout, everything is pretty much the same on these planes. You've got the same payload, same guns, stuff like that. The only difference is you don't get the torpedoes. So realistically, there's no point in using this plane. In all honesty, you're better off with the second one, the Mark 1 TB torpedo bomber, because you've got more versatility. This one has no benefits over the torpedo variant, in all honesty, other than the camouflage, which does not make any difference. Yeah, so another cool feature actually is the new X-ray for planes. Just quickly before I go, so you can see here we've got a Vickers K, and you can see here we've got the Browning. So the Vickers K does much better damage than the Browning, and it also has a bit more ammunition to it. So you can see your ammunition count in this as well, and you can see what type of guns you have. You can also see what everything is, so fuel tanks, air cooling, oil cooling, sorry, spars, traction of control surfaces. The other really interesting thing is you actually can see the engines, and you can see this is the Pegasus engine, so you can actually know what you're using. Although the Hampton did actually use a Napier engine in one variant, it was only a very rare engine to be used. But the good thing about this, it lets you know how much horsepower is on there, and also bits like that. So cooling type is air, which is brilliant because you can have less cooling issues, and less chance of fire, things like that. You also know how much horsepower you've got. So it's really cool to have this feature. Very handy little feature to have, because it gives you an idea of where everything is, gives you more interesting knowledge on actually what's in the plane, lets you know what things are, because beforehand we didn't know, we simply just were guessing. Unfortunately, they still don't show what the bombs are, but we do get the offensive guns, so we can work out how much ammunition's in each of them, and do a lot of bits like that. The other thing is you also get your pilot now in there, and yeah, it's very, very handy. So I hope you found this video interesting, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. I hope you enjoy the Hampton. It's a fantastic plane, what more can I say? And I will see you again soon. This is Screezilla out.